there is a certain level of judgment that can come with abortion if it is not talked about correctly. That process of removing a child, you did it like 5, 6 times for one person. In any of those scenarios, she gets the final say. I'm just saying that in the scenario where she decides she wants to keep and the man doesn't want to keep, then she shouldn't expect his money. But for somebody who was raped, so the sex that you had was even a traumatic experience and it was not with your consent, and you find out you're pregnant with the child of your abuser, then that's not a child anybody would want you to keep, even society. The person who suffers most from unprotected sex is the woman in every way, shape, or form. There will be less cases of all these things if people would just have protected sex. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the Good Living Podcast. This is episode 91, and I'm your host, Cookboy. I've always been your host, Cookboy. We're heading to 100 episodes on the Good Living Podcast, which will see the end of the first season. And I want to thank everybody who has been here on this journey from the beginning, from episode 1 till now. And I think we have about 70 or so video episodes, which is a lot if I really think about it. I want to appreciate everybody who has stuck by the podcast and have been listening and dropping your comments and engaging on our posts on social media and everything. This video is sponsored by Aura Nigeria. Aura Nigeria is a brand, is a clothing line that seeks to provide proper, elegant, and classy clothing for corporate women, for the corporate woman. And their Instagram page and link is in the bio, so you can check out some of the stuff and new collections they've got and do well to patronize them. Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about a topic that is a very, very hush hush topic. Everybody knows about it, but nobody really talks about it in public. And it is abortion. Abortion, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not abortion in any figurative way, it is abortion of a pregnancy, a human pregnancy. Because even I too have an abortion planned.
What?
I'm suspecting that my cat is pregnant.
Thank God, thank God, thank God.
I do not have the male cat I have at home with this female one that I suspect is pregnant is not old enough to fertilize her. So I've already told myself, if cats like to run out. If she runs out and comes back with a pregnancy, I will abort that pregnancy on the cat.
Pussycats got fleas.
So that's an abortion I plan. But we're talking about human abortion right now. And human abortion is a tricky topic. It's why people don't talk about it too much. And why? It is because it borders somewhat on our morality. There is a certain level of judgment that can come with abortion if it is not talked about correctly. So let's go straight to the point. Abortion is the removal of pregnancy. Simple as that, before it reaches its full term. So that is what abortion is. And a lot of people have engaged in abortion one way or the other. It's either you, as a lady, has aborted a child before, or you, as a guy, has paid for abortion or asked somebody to pay for abortion for you based on maybe your cultural different, rules and stuff like that. Last week we talked about Eliku, or the week before that, we talked about Eliku in the spontaneous episode. There is a spirit that deals with men, kills them actually for their wife's promiscuity. And some other people in their cultures have certain things that deny them permission to pay for abortions. These men deny them permission to pay for abortion. I think girls too might have that as well, where you cannot abort a child or else you die. But on a normal, say in modern world now, in modern culture, people have engaged a lot in abortion. A lot of abortions have been done over the years. You see people who go through relationships, 10 years relationship, and then when it finally ends, you see the woman say, after all the abortions I've done for you. That thing used to scatter my head when I was small. It's like that process of removing a child, you did it like 5, 6 times for one person. It's crazy. There's this taxi man we used to have in uni. I don't know where he is now. We used to call him Bishop. He was proudly telling us how his girlfriend has done 5 abortions for him that year. He was a taxi guy, so when we are going to club or coming back from club in uni, he's the one that take us. So he has experience. That guy, that guy is such a resource guy. If you need anything, he's a taxi guy, but if you need anything, Bishop will get it for you. If you get a girl pregnant and you need abortion, that's how you even got about the abortion. One of my friends got somebody pregnant and was looking to get rid of it. And Bishop had the plug. And we're asking Bishop, but how sure are you of this thing? He said he's sure. His girlfriend, I've done like 5 for him. This was in like 2016 or so. So That's that. But seriously, how bad is it? A lot of people like to talk about it like it's it's a gross evil that you can do, which to some degree is true. But we have to look at the small parts of abortion. There are different reasons why people want to get abortions. There are different reasons why people even get pregnant in the first place. And it's not the normal, how they call it, the frequent case of pregnancies that everybody has. People have different ways they get pregnant. But with abortion, in Nigeria, first of all, we're going to say, let me make this clear. Abortion is illegal in this country. It is a crime to take out a child that's already growing in your stomach before it reaches its full term. That is a criminal offense. And so all these doctors that do abortions for you and other people, they're actually committing a crime. In case you didn't know that. So I didn't know this myself until I was researching for this episode. So while it may look like such a bad thing, right? There are different things I want us to realize about abortion. The main reason people have an issue with abortion is that it feels like murder. It feels like you're killing a child. And when you say that, even assassins, even soldiers, there's a certain preference they have to women and children. They do not kill them. I don't know, the bandits we have in this country, they don't spare anybody. But if you watch movies and you talk to people who have really done bad stuff, they have a certain soft spot for women and children. And so when abortion refers to the killing of a child, it is a very, very sensitive issue that you have to follow with care. But at the same time, the only reason people who are heavy on how bad abortion is, the only reason they are like that is because abortion refers to taking of a life. But I would like to remind us that while it is true that abortion is taking of a life, what actually we humans give value to is not a life, it is a soul. And if something doesn't have a soul, we really do not pay any mind to it, which is why we eat plants and we eat animals, because they have life too. And some of those ones would be mature. A goat that has children, you murder it and eat it like a savage. But because you believe it does not have a soul or a personality, you do not feel guilty that much. But when it's a human child that also does not have a soul, it now becomes a tricky issue for you, because if you had left it, it would have matured into an actual human being that had a soul. Now, you can say, Coke Boy, how do you know this fetus doesn't have a soul? Well, I believe that the reason I think I have a soul is because of my consciousness. The consciousness that I have right now, and you, with the consciousness you have watching me right now, is why you are convinced that you have a soul. I do not have any memory of when I was in the womb. Neither do you. And at that point, it's safe to say that you do not have a soul assigned to you yet until you're born into this world. Now, this is not to say abortion is right. I am just saying, if in case you're too far on the right or on the left of this issue, you need to get everybody's, you need to take a lot of people's thought pattern into consideration before you decide what side you're going to stand on and what punishment you're going to be meting out to people who commit the crime of abortion. Next point. In the US, for example, it's not like Nigeria where the whole country has agreed in our constitution that abortion is a crime. In the US, some states are for pro-life, right? There's a division. It's pro-life or pro-choice. Pro-life is for those who believe that you have to have the child you're pregnant with, and pro-choice is for those is of the opinion that you can keep the child or you can abort the child. Abortion is a crime. But in Nigeria, it is not like that. But there's one thing I want us to know, and that thing is this: that innately as human beings, we have our moral compass already set inside us. And it is as we grow older and we experience things through life that moral compass gets adjusted. So to me, stealing might be outlandish. To take somebody's thing might seem ridiculous, but to somebody else with a separate upbringing, he might see certain forms of stealing to be completely okay and not even criminal in any way whatsoever. But it's because of that reason, their upbringing and stuff, it has adjusted their morality scale, and some things that you might see as wrong things, people will see it as okay. And I think that's the same thing with abortion. But I believe innately we know and feel that abortion is wrong. It is wrong. And it's because of selfishness that abortion even exists in the first place. I mean, for the most part, there are exceptions which I'm going to get to shortly. But abortion, if it was not for selfishness, it would not even exist. How do most abortions come about? It is when two people who are not ready to have a child together decide to have sex unprotected together. And the consequences of unprotected sex, one of them is pregnancy. And one of the possible consequences. And if that consequence comes, abortion now gives you an option to run away from the consequence free of charge. So it is your selfishness of not wanting to take responsibility for your actions that makes you take the option of abortion. And that is not okay. So abortion is not necessarily the problem that needs to be solved. It is our behavior around sex. When we are little, we used to hear sex education. And it's always an interesting topic as a child to hear or to listen to sex education, because you're going to learn stuff that adults do. And not an adult yet. And as a child, everything an adult does is cool. And if they teach you well, you understand that, oh, protected sex is good. Protect yourself. We used to learn these things. We used to see condom adverts on TV before. I don't even know why they don't show them anymore. Zip up. There's this one. I can't remember if it's Good Cycle or who, but they had this phrase, zip up, in their ad. And those things are not done as much anymore. And I don't know why, but now it is the responsibility of parents at home to teach children about sex, which they really do not do. One of the first ever episodes on this podcast is Parents, Children, and Sex. I listened to it recently, and the difference in my voice was shocked. I just looked like I sounded completely like my younger brother. Anyway, I digress. So we know abortion is wrong. And the problem we have to solve is our attitude around sex, like I said. If you are taught to only have sex with protection, and without protection, sex doesn't exist. If you are taught that way, there will be less issues of, first of all, unwanted pregnancy, and then even diseases and sexually transmitted infections and stuff like that. There will be less cases of all these things if people would just have protected sex. But condoms cost money, and if you don't have it readily on hand, you can easily decide to go ahead without it, especially if two of you are horny enough. So we have to pay attention to these things. It's what happens in real life. Unwanted pregnancies not just happen because these two people have decided, you know what, let's take the risk. You don't even have conversations about it. You just do the deed, and then after you say, we didn't use protection, and you act like you're concerned, but you really are not, because you've gotten what you wanted at the end of the day. And now it is the following up, and it is the problem of most human beings. They don't want to follow up. They don't want to go the extra mile. And with avoiding unwanted pregnancies, if you've had sex without protection, you should take steps to avoid pregnancy, which is, to most people, going the extra mile. And people don't like to go the extra mile. They like to take the risk. They like to wing stuff. If not, if you would just do that, a lot of pregnancies that people end up having to abort will not even come about in the first place. And you will not have to kill any child and start feeling guilty or start hearing papa, papa in your sleep. Sorry. But really, it's a serious issue. So, even if you ask ladies who have aborted before, it is a terrible experience. Not just in the moment. The recovery from abortion is insanely painful and difficult. Women go through stuff. And if you ask them again, would you want to go through this again? They say no. Which leads me to my next point. The person who suffers most from unprotected sex is the woman, in every way, shape, or form. As a man, I can get up and impregnate 10 people in one day. Deposit 10 people in one day, and repeat it every day for a whole month. Jesus, for a whole year. But as a woman, if you get pregnant once, that is it. For the next 9 months, you are busy incubating until you give birth. You carry the pregnancy. You deal with all the allergies that come with it, all the cravings that come with it, all the added weight, and the way, you see some of these TikTok trends where they show themselves looking beautiful and they show themselves looking like fucking animals during the pregnancy. They go through stuff. By the way, let me say something about those videos where they will post pregnancy, because I don't get it. I don't know who you're trying to deceive. Me, if I see something I don't like, I will talk. Because you are saying pregnancy dealt with me, and the video you first showed us is riddled with filters and makeup. And then you now show us your real face because you've gained a little bit of weight and there's a little bit of roughness. You now say it is pregnancy that took you from that high level of beauty to this animalistic looking individual that is in the camera. I mean, it's unfair. I don't think it's true. I think they just do it for social media content, but that's by the way. What I'm saying is, pregnant women really go through stuff. And if you are not ready to carry a pregnancy and have your child, then it is on you as a woman to take responsibility to avoid pregnancy. And and you might say, oh no, but we should do it together. You know, you and the man do it together. The men don't care. Even if it's your boyfriend, even if it's your fiance, if you're not ready for the child, then he doesn't care about making it. He's not doing. If a couple is trying for a baby, you know that they are having sex because they want to reproduce. If a couple who is not married are having sex, they are doing it for the fun of it because, oh, we are adults now, so we can engage in this exciting activity. And if they're doing it for that reason, then they don't want a child. And the man sure as hell doesn't want a child. But it is you who's going to carry the child if he eventually comes. So it should be your responsibility to avoid it. So what is the first thing? Before you have sex with anybody or you agree to have sex with anybody, this is in case of a one night stand, for example, or somebody you're having sex with for the first time, insist on protection. If you know you're going to go to somebody's house and you're going to have sex, I don't know how some of you do it though. Some people used to pre-plan it and even it's like setting a match. So if you're that sure, why don't you just add protection inside that assurance? Let it be among the full package. Because some of you will be like, I'm hungry, oh. Do you have food at home? Do you have smoke at home? You now ask, do you have condom at home? Do you have protection? Do you have post-note too? You now ask all those ones. Stupid questions you'll be asking. And then you go and you get pregnant. I mean, it's your responsibility as a woman to avoid pregnancy. And then if you're lost in the moment, maybe you went out on a date, you guys got drunk, it's really sweet, and you do your thing, there's also preventive measures. You can take post-note. Post-note is 500. There's another one. I think the post pill is 1750.
How? How did he know?
These are the updated prices as of today. Recording date is 14th or 15th of June 2024. As of today, these prices are updated. If you do not have these things, if you cannot afford a condom or a post pill as a man, why are you even having sex in the first? Why are you having unprotected sex in the first place? And as a lady, you should demand that these things are available. They are different. You don't have to make it awkward because there's a way you ask for post pill and condom. It now look, it just scatter the mood, but it's a requirement. And even if you don't do it before, so you don't ruin the mood, you can ask for it after. And then even before, even if you don't want to have sex with, what am I saying? Even if you don't want to have that awkward conversation with the person you want to have sex with, by yourself, you can go and get what IUD. You can get contraceptive that stays in your body and lasts you for years. And I spoke to some ladies about having that process done, and it seems some people seem very unsure about wanting to do it. You know, when something is not as when people are faced with things that they are not used to, there's a certain resistance you face. In agricultural extension in uni, they used to teach us there are different levels of acceptance people have when you bring agricultural innovation to a new place. There are people who accept it immediately. There are people who are very difficult to convince. There are people who would never accept it. And that's the way I feel ladies go about this contraceptive. So, bottom line of everything I've just been yapping about is, woman, it is your responsibility to make sure you do not have to do an abortion at the end of the day. It's your responsibility to make sure that the person you're sleeping with has protection on. It's your responsibility to make sure that you have contraceptive in case you go and do it without protection. It's also your responsibility to take a post pill after if you don't have any of these things prior. And if any pregnancy comes about, that is why, you know what? For women who have been pregnant for men that are not in love with them before, the way you are met, you know the way men meet pregnancy news, it's not pleasant, especially when you're not married or you're not looking for the child. Call a man, you just leave it and say, it's like I've missed your period, I'm pregnant. The reaction is always hostile and terrible. And I would say 50% of that is because of the irresponsibility of the man. But 50% of his reaction also is because he expects that this thing is your responsibility to take care of, to make sure this doesn't happen. Because me and you are not looking for a child when we are having sex. And if you really look at it the way I've broken it down, It's your responsibility to make sure you don't get pregnant. It is your responsibility. Please, I'm not missing words. I'm not making a mistake. It is your responsibility as a woman not to get pregnant. So when he's hostile, part of the reason for that hostility is because why are you talking with this stuff? It is you now. It's your problem. Because the pregnancy now, tell me you're pregnant. Okay, cool. I can turn off the phone, block you, and disappear. And there's no rope that leads from your pregnancy to my location at all times where you can track the father down. He's gone. It is you that your stomach will swell up. You understand? So the amount of responsibility you would have to take when pregnant should inspire you to avoid it on your own. Enough said about that. There is also the talk of who gets a say on, who keeps the child, keeping the child and aborting the child. Like, is it the father or the mother? Is it both of them? I always think the woman has a bigger say in everything. Like they always say sometimes, my body, my choice, right? So if she wants to keep it, she wants to keep it. If she wants to abort it, she will abort it. But at the same time, when you say my body, my choice, you're not just birthing a pet or a toy. It's a human being that will cost money. Money that I'm sure you expect the person who is responsible for the pregnancy to provide. And if that's the case, then the decision to keep or abort a baby cannot be 100% on the carrier of the pregnancy. The person who impregnated you, if he's interested in making that decision, deserves a contribution, deserves a say in whether that child is born or not. I want you to remember that on this podcast, I have not said whether abortion is good or bad. I've actually said it's not good, right? Because it is born out of selfishness. I don't want to use religion as, and there's a good reason why not. Somebody, my father, for example, if he's watching this, he will say, why not use religion? But I don't want to use religion as, it doesn't encompass everybody. Let us say we are under our government, right? The institutions that have been put in place to keep us in check are the governments. And the government will make the rules and the laws of the land. And if you follow the laws of the land, in places where abortion is legal, and the woman wants to now choose whether she will keep this baby or not, and she doesn't want the man to hear anything. Like the man says, no, we shouldn't keep this baby. In places where abortion is legal, it means that the man has the right to say, or the couple have the right to say, we don't want this baby, let's get rid of it. Or this pregnancy, let's get rid of it. But in where there is when there's a disagreement, and the man says, I don't want this child, the lady says, no, she wants to keep the child. Is it not safe to say that since keeping this child will require me to pay money, if we have a disagreement and you are adamant about keeping the baby, then the man can decide to keep his money? You understand? I think it's fair. I'm not saying this is how they should pass this into law or anything. I just think it is fair to think like that, right? Because sometimes when a man thinks about the responsibilities he has, and he knows that he has a legal right to refuse a child that he has already created from entering this world, in his mind, it might be for a good reason, and it might be for financial reasons. But if the woman is interested in bringing that child to the world, which is, I think, the moral and the right thing to do, then he can decide he doesn't want to spend his money on that child, which I think is irresponsible also from him, but he can decide that. And if he makes that decision and two of them decide like that, there shouldn't be any comeback later of like, irresponsible man, this, that. I don't think there should be anything like that happening. On the other hand as well, if the man decides that he wants to keep the child and the woman doesn't want to keep it, I genuinely believe the woman has the higher share of the problem, and so she gets the final say. In any of those scenarios, she gets the final say. I'm just saying that in the scenario where she decides she wants to keep and the man doesn't want to keep, then she shouldn't expect his money. In the scenario where she doesn't want to keep and the man wants to keep, she has the final decision. But in that case, the man has to be fully committed financially if he wants her to keep the child that she herself doesn't even want to keep really in the first place. So there's one exception. There's one issue that could be an exception in terms of abortion. Because I will always say this, morally, abortion is wrong. In fact, morally, premarital sex is wrong to begin with. Talk less of unprotected premarital sex. But we live in a world where these things are rampant, so we have to try to manage the problem. And then from the younger generation, we can curb the foundational issue, which is the premarital sex and the unprotected sex, from the foundational levels, from the small levels, from where our children are in just 3, just I want to say just 4, just 2, just 3, from the tender ages, you can begin to teach um safe sex and teach abstinence and stuff like that. But to people who need to learn how to manage themselves now, this is where most of the information I'm dropping on this episode comes into play. It is for those people that this is going to be useful. There are exceptions. I always think, like I just said, and I've said it 100 times, I think abortion generally as a concept is bad. But for somebody who was raped, so the sex that you had was even a traumatic experience and it was not with your consent, and then you were raped and you find out you're pregnant with the child of your assailant and your abuser and your assaulter, then that's not a child anybody would want you to keep, even society. So if somebody was raped and they get pregnant and they want to abort, deep down I feel even God will understand, because it's just traumatic, right? I don't think there's a reason we have free will. And living your life to chance, I genuinely believe premarital pregnancy can spoil your life as a lady. It will spoil your life. I mean, there are the few cases of success or success stories. Even those ones, is financial success story, not even really any other way. If you go and ask a single mother now who maybe was abused and then got pregnant as a result and kept the baby, and eventually things worked out for her in the future, if you ask her that if you could go back, would you have preferred to have this your daughter in the confines of marriage? They will say yes. Nobody would have the opportunity to change the trauma they had and say no, they want to keep it. Because of the love of the child, they will say, oh, I wouldn't change a thing because the love for children is strong. I don't even have a child yet, but I understand because I have parents that the love for children is extremely strong. And because of that love for the child, eventually, they might say, I wouldn't change a thing. But truly, they would prefer to have the father of their child support them in raising the child. So if a rape victim wants abortion, 100%, I think they should do it. They should go ahead with it and then continue with their lives and try to step away from that trauma as much as possible. And also a case of where, here's the one that is giving me a little bit of a dilemma. A widow, right? So for example, you get married and your husband dies and you now figure out that you're pregnant, but you don't have your husband again, so hence you're not married. Marriage is a dead do you part. A single woman with a pregnancy for a dead man. Besides what people might say, I think there is grounds for abortion too there, because your life has to go on. Life is short and there's only one of it. And your life has to go on. Especially if you don't have other children for this person. There's also the argument now from the man's perspective that if that man dies and you do not keep this pregnancy, his bloodline ends there. And to me, I'm heavy on continuity of a person's bloodline and longevity of a generation. But realistically, if there is no family to build around that child, is it really good to bring that child to this world? This is something I'm going to leave to you guys. I don't have a definite opinion on this. I'm really actually in the middle about this one. I'm confused about it. So in the comment section, you might help me. I would like you to help me. Tell me what you think about the situation where a woman is widowed early on in the marriage, but she finds out she's pregnant. Should she abort and continue with her life, or should she just have the child? So at the end of the day, what am I saying? Abortion is a product of selfishness, and you should learn how to control yourself around sex so that you do not have a need for abortion. And if you've aborted before in your life, then it's best you do not do anything that will make you go back to try and do it again. Take precautions. Be careful. Abstain, which is the first treatment or the first preaching anybody would tell you is the best thing to do. You will not even have to deal with any of these things. In fact, you will not have to watch this episode even if you are abstaining. But all of you are having sex already. That is why you have to stay and watch this episode.
You got me.
Thank you very much for listening to the Good Living Podcast. Remember, this episode is sponsored by Aura Nigeria. See you next week.